firale le dadima
Love like fire.
Fane betiat. Gambia dawda yalo ma fa kendol sotade je.
Wo moyo diat.
Apelen da
Ni wo ka ni lafta nyelen kendol e bina.
Yalo bu kanila ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel ciosano lo.
Abaraka.
Stewart & Co. Solicitors, a legal excellence firm in London that can help you with all aspects of your legal work. If you are looking at immigrating to the United Kingdom, Stewart & Co. can help you to set up business, buy houses in the UK, and will deal with all your legal works from start to finish.
For all your general immigration work, we can help you with that as well. If you apply for any form of visa, whether student visas, settlement visas, marriage visas, or a child wanting to come to the United Kingdom to settle with the family, we can help you to achieve your goals.
Stewart & Co. Solicitors, a legal excellence firm specializing in conveyancing, immigration, litigation, family law, personal injury, licensing, no win, no fee. Contact us today at www.sk-solicitors.com.
Yaran yin la domoro ka diaten.
Boy, janno sikes restaurant.
Sa nako be ni na dimbal. Nimba domoro kala janno.
Domoro seneyata adiyata topotoro fanan kendema bije. Luntan during tamala abeka domoro ki janni. Adi manda wala de. Teka we bijele anim fanan ka fadi jang ikono e fa. E ka fa minne ko pastry anim bakery. Iko fanan be kalele. birthday lomba, conference lomba, workshop lomba, ye fo fendin lom dunia kono. Domoro betama nyilom international otoda number 1.
Amanke ba domo la jang daman.
Esa domo jang is atariya.
Wo mu ku bandi.
Sa na ko sa futandin.
Oto san na ko be mu Sikes restaurant.
Welcome back, everyone. So it's an extended break. We will continue. Council, are we ready to continue? If we are, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Welcome back, Mr. Witness.
Bismillah, Sedo. Thank you, Council.
May I remind you that you're still under oath?
Yes, Council.
Council. Before the break, we had that exchange in which I asked the question that whether, in your opinion, a mediocre qualification is suitable for the position of Director of Intelligence. In a military such as the Gambia National Army. And you responded in a way to suggest that this was referring to that the Gambia Armed Forces are mediocre.
Gambia soldier kunda ni soldier do ko dingira me yalon ko makamul kadi mollal me yalon ko malon do ni soto.
I let you comment on that.
Kuma fo woto bang
before I say anything.
Jandi be kuma fo la woto.
Council, thank you very much.
Council.
I don't want to believe.
Malla fikalani nako.
That was my suggestion. But if that was what I said, and you don't mean that, then I stand to withdraw that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Tamba, for the consideration and withdrawal of that statement. I would never, ever consider, let alone suggest, that the armed force that is responsible for me sleeping at night, that is responsible for ensuring the protection of the entire country, I would never suggest that they are mediocre.
Numbarabaga ngo kumonyi njolone kavugu tur nyinkamala ko sojar na sojar kundal men ya lonko itulle molde men ya lonko suto tili somandawre tolle marli na tankoni na kanto la nyimbanko kanko itul molde men ya lonko makamul ka dilal men ya lonko ma londo nyi soto ngo kumonyi ngajolane nana tafala.
No, I did not say that. Okay. I think there is a misinterpretation.
Yes, come again.
I said,
Council ko,
I would never ever, I would never say that the armed force that is responsible for ensuring that I sleep at night so I would never say that those people are mediocre. I never suggested that. And I would never think that. If there is anything, myself and everybody else in this country should be thankful to the armed forces and all members of the security services for the service they are rendering to this country, because it is one of sacrifice. And for that, we should all be grateful. And And I am particularly grateful to them.
And
I would never say or suggest anything to put them at a very low level. I never would do that. So, Mr. Tamba, we are on the same wavelength, I suppose.
Mr. Tamba,
Council, certainly we are on the same wavelength.
Thank you very much. So we move on. The question I asked you before the break was for your opinion as to whether or not you think there were promotions in the army that were not based on merit. I am not talking about your own time. I am talking about in general. If you do not believe that there were any irregularities, just say no, you did not believe, and we move on. Thank you.
Council, to the best of my ability, Council all promotions in the armed forces, Gambia Armed Forces, were based on merits, based on recommendations from the various services, the battalions to the service chiefs, my level. However, there were promotions that were sanctioned by the Commander-in-Chief, which I may not have control over.
Precisely the point, you do not have control over them.
We have
gone over this before. Your opinion is that he exercised his discretion, and therefore all of them were based on merit, as he saw it.
Correct, Council.
Well, Council.
But do you also appreciate that even though he may have seen those people as deserving, there could have been other considerations apart from merit?
Council, in my own view, those particular soldiers in question, they were working directly under him at the State House. So I will not be in a position to ascertain those promotions.
So in a sense, you are saying you do not know whether those promotions were based on merit.
Yes, you are right. However, as the Commander-in-Chief, I know that he is invested with powers to promote those he feels are deserving.
Yes, we have all agreed to that. That was not in fact the issue. The issue was basically the fact that you do not know whether all those promotions were based on merit.
Yes, Council, you are right.
Council nyala.
Thank you very much. Let's now go to your time at State House in 1994.
Silang ngata fanna la wato men na idenu State House 1994 sango kono.
You told us that after some selection process,
yenyi fonye jankabrin tombondiro dol keta.
You were deployed to State House. What position did you hold when you were first deployed to State House?
I was the third in command. Responsible for the physical guards.
Physical guards.
That is those that wear uniform. Because we have the plain clothes as well. But the physical guards, the uniform men, they fall under my immediate command.
Who was responsible for those who would not wear uniforms?
At one particular time, the second in command was then Captain Dembanjai. Was responsible for the plain clothes. And he was the second in command. He was next to the commander too.
As at this time, the gendarmerie had changed from being gendarmerie after the departure of the Senegalese to the TSG. Could you tell us briefly about that, because we want to understand what necessitated that change and how it affected the security apparatus in this country?
Council, following the disintegration of the Confederation, Council bring Confederation in Janjanta, and then the Gendarmerie Command was on its own. Government came with a paper to restructure the Gendarmerie by changing the name as well, using the name Tactical Support Group Tactical Support Group or Tactical Support Unit. Tactical Support Unit.
Why do you think it was necessary to change the name?
Because the word gendarmerie was a French word. And because the Confederation was no more there, and it was the Senegalese that helped us to constitute that gendarmerie. And hence they already left at the time. Then the authorities decided to change the name from Gendarmerie to Tactical Support Unit. Tactical Support Group. Whereby some personnel of the former Gendarmerie were sent to the police. Some were sent to the army. And those that remain adopted the name Tactical Support Group. Tactical Support Group.
We have received evidence suggesting that the Nigerians who were then in charge of the army, in fact, supported or advocated the disbanding of the gendarmerie. Because it is not traditional for an English-speaking country to have a gendarmerie operating in its territory.
Katuma manke adu tilino de kuru banko me alongo katubabu kangole fa pour que gendarmerie toso ila tundo kambati la banko kan.
What is your view on this?
Mune de la mirolo ti kumota.
And so I am of the view that that may not be true. The Nigerians were here supposedly to train the army. So when it comes to policy matters, I want to believe that they don't have any say in that.
Your belief is they ought not to have any say on that, correct?
In the disbanding of the gendarmerie, yes.
But in reality, do you or do you not know whether they recommended to the president to disband the gendarmerie?
Until I was a junior officer, a lieutenant for that matter. I may not be privy to that kind of information.
Thank you very much. That's a very honest answer. So, is it true that there was this rivalry between the gendarmerie and the Gambia National Army?
Yes, Council, there was.
Can you tell us, in your view, how that rivalry has affected the relationship between the two forces?
During
that time.
Council, to my knowledge, the army personnel, they felt that the word gendarmerie was a francophone word. To the extent that they felt that they were more trained than the gendarmerie personnel. And all that was out of ignorance. Because when it comes to the officer corps, those that go outside the country to attend to gendarmerie courses, they had the opportunity to have training in both military and their profession in the gendarmerie. So it was a misconception.
But equally, the gendarmerie also considered themselves as an elite force and superior to the other forces, especially the police. Is that true?
Yes, Council, that was true simply because, like I highlighted, the gendarmerie felt that they have two types of training: the military and the professional training. So probably that was why they felt that they were more superior than the police.
And what was the impact of these different conceptions and beliefs on the security apparatus in this country? So the interrelationship between the various forces.
Intanko bunda damal temanu munemu kuolti me alonko wala mukulia kuolti me alonko wala betama kai damal temanu intanko bunda damal tema jannu bankoka.
Council, operationally, it created a lot of problems. Because whenever we meet in the theater of operation, the gendarmerie will feel more superior than the police. And because that is human, created a lot of misconception and problems.
The
same as the gendarmerie and the army. Because going by the French setup of gendarmerie, the ideology we had here at that time was the gendarmerie was more powerful than the army and the police. That created some lot of misconceptions.
Why was it believed that the gendarmerie had more power than the army and the police?
The reason is very simple. Like I said earlier, the gendarmerie are trained in both police duties as well as the military duties. So that made them to feel that they were more superior than the others.
As at the time the TSG was created, they were given the responsibility of protecting the president and sensitive installations. Did that have an impact on the army itself?
Certainly, Council. The same misconception kept lingering in their minds. Certainly, those who were with the president, guarding the president, certainly is human. That they feel that they were more superior than the others. But usually it is at the lower cadre. But at the officer corps, that kind of situation was never experienced.
There came a time when the more sophisticated weapons of the gendarmerie were moved from the gendarmerie to the army. Could you comment about that?
Council, that is a fact. But those are political decisions. That comes from the higher level. That probably depends on what kind of advices the president at that time was giving. Because at that time we had what we used to call security advisor to the president. Who was a Nigerian by nationality. So in most cases of this nature, he plays a very important role as far as advising the president.
Do you recall the name of the person, the national security advisor at the time?
And so I can't remember the name. It was a foreign name, so I can't remember.
Fair enough. But what impact did the removal of these weapons from the hands of the gendarmerie and placing them in the hands of the army, what impact did that have on the men and officers of the gendarmerie?
Inku anarna munkole ya kole sabu molla meno ya lonko be do kola gendarmerie le koto kela inkidi jawol ta ka bondi bulol kono kadi sojar kunda ngol anarna munkole ya kole sabu gendarmerie do kulalla.
And so the impact on the moral of the men was very damaging.
Council, wayeko men sabu moluma men ya lonko wolle be gendarmerie wotumo aketa tinyar baleti.
Because what makes a soldier to be proud
adu men ka sojaro nganyandi afanna
is the type of armament he has.
wala munjoram fason ne bate bulu.
But once you disarm him, because taking the sophisticated weapons and giving him the less heavier weapons, is equivalent to disarming him. So the impact was negative.
We understand that the gendarmerie was basically, either by design or by default, it was basically a third force or a counter force to the army. What's your view on that?
Tankobunda sabanja wala timeni yalo ninkube kering munafa itolle la ko nyin kono ile muna foto isoto ibe men fola woto.
Council, that was a misconception.
Council wofana mu filole tinu wotumo.
So I disagree with that.
Manso wala.
But don't you think that by default the gendarmerie, as it was previous to the disarmament, did it serve as a counter force or as a deterrent to the army?
Bari bitoila miro to watu men jorangulu be ibulu jani sandar muro le jorangulu taibulu ila miro to famanke nyo sababundati telning sojarolu tema wala amanke ko telmu bundale te menu kallo sojarolu nyato ila kulu kono.
That is a fact.
And in fact, the two mutinies of the early 90s by returned Gambian soldiers from Liberia were only quelled because of the intervention of the gendarmerie.
Ando kaso na nyimala fanonko nyimbala mbaya fulo mbeka da 90 sol kono sango le ka 90 sol be kono menu banda milde nyaro wala min gendarmerie wala banda milda ko nyi nyaro.
That's a fact, Council.
And by disarming or stripping the gendarmerie of its big weapons, the effect was that this so-called counter force was significantly reduced in terms of its capability to prevent insurgencies or to deal with insurgencies.
Ndo besan na nyin mafanonko yelo kidibal bentebul wal muzandra morolti o fananar na sababu leko ila sembo nyin anarna talale pour ka bantambil ko nyaaro men yalon ko ning ayatra ku keta pour ka bantambil nyaaro nyin kamala ko yela kidi jawol nyi wure bondi bulle ila sembo talata.
That is a fact, Council.
Council.
And we saw that in 1994, starting from July 21st to July 22nd, there were the makings and actual execution of a coup d'etat in this country.
In July 1994, kata July morning killing kata morning fula ngajele ko kulan me alon ko coup d'etat be borikanum banko kanjanne.
That's a fact, Council.
Could you tell us what were the things that were happening in your end at State House while the president was away in England in July of 1994?
State House de Bansara Korda Bado. Muna be keri ninje wato mena president tenu njanga tamara tata England banko kango wato 1994 July karokono. Muna tarta kanum keri nje.
And so it happened far back in early part of July 1994.
Aketa wati June le fanang komantunu July karokono 1994.
That the president then Sadauda Kairabajara traveled out of the country.
O tembo member president yala Sadauda Kairabajara tamata kabo banko kang
to the Kingdom of Morocco.
Atata Morocco banko kang.
And proceeded on his annual leave to the United Kingdom.
Anata tenten katala sawo sandahawa to ta kata United Kingdom banko kang.
And whilst in the United Kingdom,
United Kingdom,
he was with the commander of the Presidential Guards at the time, Captain Lamin Bajo.
Utembo memu Presidential Guards, men ka President Okanta ila kunton ko anole besilo kanu Captain Lamin Bajo.
the second in command as well, who was the head of the plainclothes, Lieutenant Dembanjai, was with him in the United Kingdom.
Alu wo bunda kilimula men simbe nyatonko kan Captain Dembanjai me ya lonko atele mu dolu la nyatonko to melu buka uniform du ngo fanambe sino kan wotumo.
Mr. Witness, did you say captain or lieutenant? In respect to Dembanjai?
Dembanjai was a lieutenant.
Thank you.
Okay, lieutenant. Okay.
Proceed, please.
Thank you. So it happened that within that period, information was filtering in the Gambia in all corners that soldiers were planning a coup d'etat against Sadauda. And being the senior man on the ground as the acting commander, andu memmo kuntu nyaton koti utumo membe luring ka foitelo commander nyaton koti. I mean me being the acting commander at the time. Watembo commander yabe karafari telefongo kuma. When I picked this intelligence, biringa nyin kibaro mo nyin kullo kibaro, after all the assessment I did, biringa yiri karol nin krosirolu beke, I contacted my commander at the time who was in the UK, that is Lamin Kababajo. Nana commander nga chokinyola na nyomoi wala motumo Captain Lamin Kababajo. I briefed him what the rumor was all about. Mulungulu kibaro membeke kanga Kenya befaye utumo that the military was planning a coup against the president. Ko sojarulu be ferole feuja kan utumo de purka kude ka president ko kudeta. And they intend to do the coup on arrival at the airport. Ando pareta kudeta nyin tamandila watu me wole mina ta hanifo ifutata kuluntila jirulato. At the time, the commander, Captain Bajo, told me that he has informed the president. Commander Captain Bajo for president. So hence, it is an information that cannot be underrated. And being the most senior on the ground at the time, I put a standby unit. I bunda parendi kafame standby wala menu be parering otumo a week before Sadauda's return. Lokun killing jannin Sadauda be mrulana. On his return, I led the team to the airport to receive Sadauda. And based on the rumor of a coup d'etat, I also prepared a very strong team. That is the escort team. And also another team that we call fighting team. So I went with these two groups to the airport with adequate briefing about the situation within the country at that time. We were at the airport. Before that, before you got to the airport, was there any form of coordination between the TSG, the police hierarchy, and the army? The coordination was there, and that is based on the airport ceremonies, such as guard of honor. Certainly it was communicated and coordinated. And the guards battalion in Bakau as well. The commander also was adequately briefed about the rumor that was circulating. Mr. Witness, my question is referring more to coordination between the TSG and the armed military hierarchy, the army, as well as the police hierarchy, about how to deal with this rumor.
ko nyin kabe ka kafu nyoma be kafu nyoma nyame fo soldier kundar police kundar ani nyin TSG même tactical support group la moldi ke fo ye be ko kafu ni nyoka ne ye ko nyi ya ke kacha pour be ko nyi ba to ben na nyame ni aketa wala nyi mo membe ke même coup d'état ko fo nyi fanna tanko bunda sabol be ye be kacha ni la banka ko be ko kafu nyoma nyame.
And so like I earlier stated, and so after relaying the message to my commander who was in the UK, and later he mentioned to me that he has reported to the president. I had expected that the coordination will start from there, the instructions will start coming from the UK. Ngani njiki ko woto kumbeo fanambe damu tala kaboite lela karola kana ngani njiko ko fanalbe adamu tala le kakibaro lukinte yenang kun la nyato. There was a security advisor at the State House. Katotumo yamarlabe State House menka kanto nin tankada yamaroke. He was also put in the picture about the rumor. Andu yin kibaru fo atefana yenne wotumo. So being a junior officer at the time, where wotumo palasi ndimule bembutebulu, all I could do was to put my men on standby. Desa men keno drong wala mangana mulu parendi yetara loringe pare. They need to act in case of any eventuality. Uru kakuke nimisali kama kuokundi nata wuli itelsibuli yebendunga. But I'm not aware of any coordination that was put in place.
Is it the case that you put together that force to go and receive the president out of your own discretion, or were you acting under some coordinated instructions?
Fo ite kay tanko bunda mol men kafu nyoma ye kafu ni nyoma le rong nyin kamala ko ite la makamo kandamu fo ye kafu ni nyoma kande kangole kamba me alon ko adite mala ye men kafu nyoma.
It was an operational plan I did. Fere de dari ngolo me alon ko nte fangole yo de pour nyanta ko lu tamandi la nyame. We the commander then Lamin Bajo. Nin commander la kango kan otumo Lamin Bajo. Because after reporting the rumor to him, and prior to their arrival or return, I had a discussion with him which he was able to lay down some of the actions he expected us to do. Andu nana ta kachale kachame ya lonko wala nyanta kulu kala nyamin andu ay kumo dolu fonyen ne fero dolu ntelinyanta menu landila nung ko nyin kama, amongst which was the, like what I mentioned, the convoy nyin kono nyin dabi jele ko convoy menu ya lonko lem dandandir laluti, and the fighting party anin kelela kafonyin. So I acted on those instructions. Received them from the airport.
In your view, in hindsight, would you say there needed to have greater collaboration and coordination between the army, the police, and the TSG at the time?
For it la miralo for ajare daldo mampuruka nyomo chok nyolo soto sojaro la fanala police la fanala anin TSG la fanala for ajare dalo wato la mampuri nyomo yo soto kakul taman tobe nyokan ka tamandi.
Council, you are very right. Council muto nyaleti. But hence I reported the matter. Bari biringa nyin kibaro di. And it has gone up to the security advisor then. And it was brought to the attention of the president at the time, Sir Dauda. I would have expected that a coordination would have been put in place, whereby the Nigerians who were in charge of our command at the army would have been instructed, and they could have moved out and get those involved arrested. And isi wulino le num fanga yin fero tamandi men yalon ko wollebe kudeta fewja kan isi mutale num, because any coup when it is leaked, it should not succeed. If the appropriate actions were put in place. Because those who are supposed to have acted did not act. So So that led to a breach of security issues.
And
then it could not be prevented.
Sorry about that. On that day, when Sir Dauda arrived, what happened at the airport?
When Sir Dauda's plane landed at the airport, I was already on the ground with my team from the Presidential Guards. But prior to the landing of the aircraft, I saw former President Yahya Jammeh. He was at the airport, and at the time he was the head of the military police.
And military police,
And he was armed with a pistol. And he was not with any of his military police personnel. Yes, he has all right to be at the airport as head of the military police. But I would have expected to see him with some of his personnel, not alone. Later I saw him being confronted by the Nigerians, that is the high command of the army at the time. He was called and questioned why he was at the airport and why he was carrying a pistol.
But
what I could see him say was he was the head of the military police, so he has right to be anywhere. But already these Nigerians, they heard about the rumor of a coup. So they took his pistol, they disarmed him, and then they sent him away. But I could see he didn't leave that premise, that area. So until when the aircraft landed, I could not see him. But I noticed one strange thing. Because usually when the president arrives, he coming out of the plane, he inspects a guard of honor. But that day there was no guard of honor. From the plane, she went into his car, and that was how we left to the State House.
Do you know whose arrangement was it? That he wouldn't inspect a guard of honor?
I want to believe that it was the idea of the commander at the time, Captain Lamin Bajo. Because like I earlier on said, that I briefed him before he left UK about the situation on the ground. That is on the rumor of a coup plan coup. And so he also put those plans in place to make sure that he does not inspect the guard of honor.
Could you tell us what happened at State House when you got there?
On arrival at the State House, I had a briefing with him in his office, that is Captain Lamin Bajo. where I reiterated the rumor that was lingering on.
Damen na nying kudeta minuno membe fokang no saying kanga ije koteke ala office kono.
And I suggested to him that as they've been away for about 45 days, and as they were just arriving,
Mr. Tamba, did you say 45 days?
Yes. Yes, that trip was about 45 days. Because Sadauda went for a summit. Then he went to play golf and proceeded to his annual leave. That was about 45 days he was away. So on arrival at the State House, I had a briefing session with Captain Bajo, which was the norm.
Captain Bajo kachake meya lonka dalta kila wale nyama.
Where I reiterated the plan coup. And both of us agreed that hence it did not happen at the airport. Then we should still not rule it out. So I suggested to him that I will spend the night at the State House with the men to be on standby in case it happens overnight. And I suggested to him that he could go home, hence he was from a trip of 45 days with the other men, they could go home. So I in the morning, when he reported for work, I also took permission for him that he could allow me to go to my house, have shower and change my uniform. And the permission was granted. But then I had also there were certain things I could not remember to collect from Fajara Barracks. As soon as I was entering the gate, the guard commander alerted me that I have a call at the guard room. Guard commander member je otumo ay nyim fanyen ko na telephone commandero sotonne ila guard room ko ila kantar bunto je. So I went straight and received the call. Ndata no commandero ta otumo le telephone commandero. It was my commander, Captain Lamin Bajo, on the line. Atata Captain Lamin Bajo le tim fangola commander wole commandi wonya. And he instructed that I should go back to the State House immediately as the information I gave him about this coup attempt, he got information that the soldiers are on the way marching from Yundum to the State House. Ayim fanya ko ha yen yamari kudeta fero menanum woto sain si pare murunan sain ka murunan State House katu nga moyle ko sojarul wulitale be pare kan iba kan nan pour kana State House. I also alerted the commander at the Fajara Barracks at the time, who was Turo Jaune, Major Turo Jaune. Tumo commander membe Fajara Barracks Major Turo Jaune. Ndeno fanam bondi ko lu kala mo tumo le nga fay. On my arrival at the State House, I had a briefing session with my boss, Captain Bajo. And he gave me instructions to put up a defensive plan.
Mr. Witness, you said when whilst at Fajara Barracks you spoke to Major Turo Jaune. What position did he hold in relation to your job at State House or the job of Kababajo at State House?
State House.
He was the commander of Guards Battalion, that is the TSG at that time. Atele munyato nkoti Guards Battalion la Karola, Kandar Battalion nye kafubunda me TSG. The presidential guards at the time, and Tembo President Kantarla, the presidential guards, they fall under the command of the commander of the TSG. So that was why before I left, I put him in the picture that this is the report we are getting.
Proceed, please. You then spoke to Kaba Bajo.
On arrival at the State House, me and Kaba, we had a session where he outlined the defensive plan for the State House.
State House
But it happened that morning, the American ambassador was at the State House. American ambassador at the State House. He was with the Vice President at the time, Sehu Sabali. And Vice President Benyo Kanjelu Sehu Sabali.
Let's juxtapose time on this narrative. What time of the morning are we talking about?
This should be around 10 o'clock in the morning.
Proceed, please.
So then the message was filtered to Sadauda through the Vice President Sehu Sabali. And first tambindini Vice President la Karola Sehu Sabali with the American ambassador who was with Sehu Sabali at the time. And then American ambassador ka futandi ofana mameya lonkoni Sehu Sabali benyo kanu dumo. So I was made to understand that they went to Sadauda's office. And tried to convince him so that they can move him to the American naval ship. All that time I was trying to put in place my security plan. Then all of a sudden, we saw vehicles driving out of the State House. And was told that Sadauda was, in that American ambassador vehicle. During that time, the Americans, they had their naval ship in the country that docked at our Navy base around the ports. They were here to conduct an exercise with our own army. And my boss, Captain Lamin Bajo, on hearing the news that Sadauda left to the naval ship, he followed him to the ship. But before leaving, he told me that he will get in touch with me for further directives. But because there was no mobile phone in the Gambia at that time, so the communication was difficult between us.
Would you say that Kaba Bajo traveled with them on the same convoy, or he left State House later?
After
they left, Kaba followed them. Because he wanted to know where Sadauda was heading to. But after they reached the American Navy ship, then later Kaba was able to return back to the State House. And he came to see what kind of plan I had implemented. After that, he told me that he was going back to the American ship to see Sadauda, whether he was okay.
At this stage, did you know where the coupists were?
That time we are having conflicting reports.
Kato Tombong ka kibaro lumenu soto imanke kibaro lorinti ka kibaro lukato falin nale.
Some were saying that they have overrun Fajara barracks.
Luluba fo kanko ye Fajara sojar korjar yin tale fo kapare.
But at the time, Fajara barracks deployed some men at the bridge, at Denton Bridge.
Fajara barracks Denton Bridge saloto.
So we kept monitoring the situation. And Kababa returned back to the ship where Sadauda was. So we kept receiving reports that they were getting close to Denton Bridge.
And kibarolu continita kana kafoko ni sojarolu be kata kanna nede ibina kan Denton Bridge kan.
Did you at any point in time leave State House to venture outside to see what was happening?
Oh, what na sort of banka ite kunnu ka finti State House masala korda baro ka finti banda ka jube ka korosi ka long muna be keri nuba.
Council, as the commander on the ground at the time, I could not leave the State House to go and venture to see what the situation was. I relied on the team, the group that was at Denton Bridge, because they were from Fajara barracks. In a sense, they were our parent unit. So there was no need for me to go up to Denton Bridge or elsewhere to see the situation. I could fully rely on them. So my role was to secure the State House. And there I stayed.
What type of weapons did you have to defend State House at the time?
Council, I want to say here that that was the biggest mistake of the regime at that time.
Council left fula jansa inko mansakunda membe siri nuutumo wakete filibante ya bale tunuutumo.
I can say most of the sophisticated weapons were sent to the army in Yundum.
Katu msinyim foko kele joran sangaro la sobe malu utumo yewlubeki sojaro le utumo Yundum.
So at the presidential guards we had only 2 machine guns.
Bitu president wakantar sojaro le utumo machine gun fula doron le bentol bulu.
And the rest were small rifles, AK-47s.
Adunga tobe kidi fasongo le betel bulu munyin kidi ndingo leti nyin AK-47 kidolo.
Did you have any mortars?
Kidol be bulle bay kaf me mortars.
Council, we never had any mortar there.
Council, pesa man soton tol bulu otumo. Peso kaf me mortar ntel mo dodo soton otumo.
Subsequently, the coupists would arrive at around State House.
Munda ko nyi nyala ba nyi ko dala nyi narna futa State House fannala.
Could you tell us about it? We want to know what was happening at the 2 points of attack or 2 points of arrival.
Leftalo na utumo nyilu kudeta lalo ye dumfulo me sila fulo lu menutana mpurka dunang banyunu kana hanfo State House leftalo na utumo wukulu tamata nyadile.
Council, they approached the State House in 2 groups.
Council ifindita na State House kan fanna fulalela.
One of the group was led by Edward Singate.
From which direction?
He came to Independence Drive.
Well, not an Independence Drive silolela.
To the Makati Square from the market end.
Makati Square by Bama Fangola Banyunu Marcel Ma Fangola Kaduna Wotola.
Coming up to close to the entrance to the former Ministry of Health, their warehouses.
Kana Minister Bunda Lunto, Minister Bunda be matajata kendala. Ilaw manga sino liu bumbalu benu ndame ma fangola.
Where they used to issue birth certificates.
Tumo ning watumo eka wulu kaitolu diu bu kordale konoji.
And he stopped there with his team.
Nala kafomo lulota jile.
Then at the State House, the other side, that is the Marina Gate.
Yo, State House la koma silo ni memu Marina Bunda ni ma fangolati.
I got report from the officer who was assigned there, that is Lieutenant Sonko.
Utumo Lieutenant Sonko wale marta wo koma bundala ngakibarolu soto atele bulununko.
We have several Lieutenant Sonkos in the past. Which one are you referring to?
Lieutenant Sonko Jamal del Soto.
Actually, not Usman Sonko. I can't remember the name. It's from Nyomi N.
Hakilo bota amari tola baramanke Usman Sonko today bare afanang ni mari fanamu Nyomi Nkolti.
Where is he?
Ali? He is late now, I understand. He was in the UK and later he is late.
Amari sainde nga kibaro sotoka afatale. Wati sotonda atata United Kingdom atata UK barbitun sa ngamo ka afatale.
Proceed, please.
He also reported citing the former President Yahya Jammeh with his group.
Atafalo nyin kibaro dinna ko ho anyaye mojele men ne keta president to jallu tumo ikafa Yahya Jammeh anala kafomulu.
On the main road, just around social welfare offices there.
Silaba nyinkan social welfare lawo silaba ma fawlaje.
So when Edward arrived with his team at the point I did mention just now,
Biring Edward na lamu futata dinkirato ngadamen foten sai.
He shouted that he needed to speak to the authorities.
Awurita nyine kan nyimfo asanto awurita ko alaftadia mula nyaton ko liemene beje odumo.
At the time I was with few of my personnel around the guard room.
Odumo ntene na mo dandalu mbe guard room ma fawla kantar bu toje.
Because already I've deployed most of the men over the perimeter of fence of the State House.
Odumo no molu mem siate kolonge be janjandile ibe dinkiral to men keta sansambalu ma fawlati State House koloje.
Do you know a soldier called Sam Kambai?
Yes, I know Sam Kambai.
Was he deployed at State House at that time?
Council, I wouldn't remember whether he was at the State House at the time.
State House.
Proceed, please.
So at that moment where I was, I could see through the main gate towards the market end. I could see Edward kneeling down with his RPG, aiming it at the main entrance.
Edward haina be nyoiringa kumbali ngokang anala RPG wole mu kidoti meya lonko akanyim bulukono peso fai.
At the time where I was with, at the time he was a staff sergeant, I believe, Ensa Tamba.
Tembo nimmo benyo kanje ngamira utumo staff sergeant ole mati ikafai Ensa Tamba.
Where is he now, Ensa Tamba?
Ensa Tamba alesa inten.
He's a full colonel now at the Armed Forces headquarters.
Sa in full colonel le mwati Armed Forces la korda banyendo.
Then I was there with Staff Sergeant Bakari Kamara.
Me Staff Sergeant Bakari Kamara fanambiji.
I think he was also a Staff Sergeant, probably, or W2 Musa Jammeh.
Staff Sergeant W2 Musa Jammeh.
So all of us were together around the guard room end. So when Edward shouted that he needed to see the authorities, I then briefed Staff Sergeant Bakari Kamara that he could go to Edward and get whatever message he has.
Ngani ya marodi otumo Staff Sergeant Bakari Kamara la ko ite sitano ening Edward Yediamu alafta kumakam fole ite tayo kumakam tabulu inaina.
Because in such situations you have to sacrifice one of your men that you will use as a runner.
Tatu tembo na koleata foyela mo kilim bondi me ya lonko e batele bondi la prate eke kilati kaw ko fasongulu tamandi.
We will be carrying messages front and back.
Membe kare kibaro lu natila aninka kibaro lu samba.
So when he returned,
delivered
a message from Edward Singate.
Edward Singate la kibaro natin tolukang
that he wanted to see Sadauda.
So alafta Sadauda le jela.
I also gave him a message back to Edward.
That
Sadauda was not around. So we continued exchanging messages front and back between me and Edward. And within that moment, I can see a lot of men were arriving at Edward's location. I made a thorough assessment of the situation. And I heard reports that those at the bridge have reunited with them. What convinced me that it was true, I saw one of the officers, Lieutenant Bineminte, who was at the bridge. He was with Edward's team.
Lieutenant Bineminte, which force did he belong to?
Lieutenant Bineminte be menna bonta abtabe na tanko bunda fanna jumalto.
TSU, he belongs to the TSU.
TSU or TSG?
TSG.
So he was on your side?
Before, yes.
Followed.
And he turned coat to join the other side?
Later I saw him with the opposing force.
Was he the only member of the TSG you saw with Edward's group?
There were many. I could see their headdress. Because the army, they were using green. So their bearers were different from that of the TSG.
So how did you react when you saw that?
So when I saw that, and also I got reports from the #1 Marina Gate N. The officer I posted there was reporting to me also about the situation there. So being the most senior on the ground, after carrying the thorough assessment, I got my senior men who were on the ground with me. I shared the intelligence I received about the situation on the ground. And now it was left to me as the commander on the ground to take a decision.
At this stage, were your gates breached or they were not breached?
And so the gates, both main gate and the Marina gate, were intact.
At this stage, have you directly spoken to any one of the leaders that were approaching State House from both ends?
Kabuda otembola fo wati na sort of delaba idia muta nyaton ko la men yalon ko bina kanka State House ka boinkan ni fanna fulul bela.
Council, those were enemy forces. So there was no way I could speak to them. And at that time there was no mobile telephone. So there was no communication, radio communication that I could speak with them at the opposing force. That was why I sent Staff Sergeant Bakari Kama to be going front and back, talking to Edward and coming back and bringing messages to me. Staff Sergeant Bakari Kama
it's our responsibility to bring out the evidence and get your reaction to the evidence. We've been told by one of your superiors at the time that when the group arrived at Atlantic Hotel, Yaya Jami placed a call to you at State House and spoke to you in Jola, and you agreed to open the gate. What's your reaction to that?
Wa kabri ya jamena la kafo mol nada ka State House ka waling aye kumandi kabri nga aye kumandi pour ye bunda nyi yele ina diam da kanno me alon ko jola kan wona pour ite bunda yele e be yemone so rebe men fula woto
Council, that was false.
Council,
there has never been any communication between me and Yaya Jammeh at that time. Staff Sergeant Bakari Kamara, who is a captain now.
Staff Sergeant Bakari Kamara, memu captain oti saying.
Colonel Esa Tamba.
Colonel Esa Tamba.
And the late Musa Jammeh.
Nintala Musa Jammeh.
They were all with me around the guard room end, facing the main gate towards hospital, towards July 22nd end. So at that time, like I said, there was no mobile communication. And I never left that position.
You told the commission that you made your assessment of the situation. Tell us what elements you considered in making your assessment and what was the conclusion or decision you took.
Okay, the
elements I took into consideration before making my decision. Because from the point where Edward was stationed with his personnel, I could see some of the armaments they were having. Of course, they had very sophisticated machine guns. They had these RPGs, rocket-propelled grenade launchers. I could see motors. And a lot of other sophisticated weapons. And that reminded me about those weapons that were transferred to the army. So it gave me a view that we will not be able to sustain the firepower. At that moment, we were in an enclosure. That is the State House. And one of the assessments I put into account, they were getting more men coming to reinforce them. And we could not have that opportunity to get reinforcements coming. And the unfortunate incident was we had our armory at the Old Atlantic, if you understand the Old Atlantic, before the Atlantic Hotel. Atlantic Hotel. It was rounded and taken over. Do you
know a person called Alaji Gay? He served at the State House at the time.
You more told on the way of me Alaji Gay and I get a mold me along by State House, Mansala Corrabado or Watola.
Yes, Council, he was one of the bodyguards, the plain clothes.
Yes, Council, at a bemol Balama Cantarlalti, but uniform doom.
He suggested that all the arms you had in the armory were taken out to mount a defense.
When you for okay, Kidol, you make Joram and Bebal Bulla Kima Buddha or Lil Beta, the Puru Ali Alfantankela.
What do you say to that?
You want to for our
Council, he might have made a mistake.
Council, as a Kerr affiliated.
Because I was the one coordinating the operations. The arms he was referring to were the ones we had overnight during our standby. But when the mutineers were advancing to the State House, they came very fast. Arrived very fast. Because there was no force on the way that could deter their movement. Like I earlier stated, even the TSG guys who were at the bridge, surrendered quickly and joined hands with them. And that was how they were able to reach Banjul within a very short period.
So proceed to your decision.
So, like I said, they rounded up our armory. And the weapons that were left there were taken away. Because that was where we have our outrider section. They were based there at All Atlantic. So they were responsible for the security of our armory as well. But when they were overcome, that's how they accessed our armory and took away the arms. So, like I said, after the negotiations, so it was up to me as the commander on the ground to take a decisive decision. One, whether to engage them in a battle, and eventually what will end up happening, they will overpower us because they have no sophisticated weapons, and they will have reinforcement coming, and they can have replenishment of more ammunition coming. We will not be in that position. Once we run out of ammunition, it is like me sacrificing my men, to have them killed. Because in that situation, there is no way they could spare my men if they overcome us. Because maybe probably during the exchange of fire, they might sustain casualties as well. And if they overpower us, then the same will be extended to my men. So I took a decisive decision that after calling those people I mentioned and giving them the situation report, I suggested to them that now that the president whom we were protecting, we were guarding, he is in the American ship and they have left. They are sailing out of our Gambian waters. And we should that we should fight a war that we are hopeful of winning. And I instructed that I am instructing that let them open the gates and allow them to come in. I heard during the course of my service with the UN in Sierra Leone, I could see the Kenyan battalion. We are fully armed. We have been deployed to certain other parts of Sierra Leone. But a platoon strength, which was about 30 men, were able to disarm a whole company. Probably, Chairman, you might have heard about that incident in Sierra Leone during the war. So if you look at the decision I took, was to save my personnel. And that the president was already secured, he has left. So I instructed that they should open the gate. It started with the main gate where Edward was. And Edward with his team were the first to come in after we accepted to open the gates. When he came, he met me at the guard room and where I was standing. And he explained their mission to me. But all this time, President Yahya Jammeh was around the Marina Parade at his same position. So until I gave instruction at the Marina gate for them to open that gate too, that was how he also entered.
Mr. Tamba, is it the case that among your men who opened the Makati Square gate end was Musa Jammeh, correct?
When you Mr. Tamba said, for Ido Kunyol Kono, Abel Kono, many Bunda Bany, Marina Parade Bunda Bany, Edward Makati Square Bunda Bany, Abel Kono Musa Jammeh.
Council, like I stated myself, Musa, Warrant Officer Tamba, and Kamara, we were together at the time when I was taking the decision.
Council, Warrant Officer Tamba, Musa Jammeh,
So I instructed Musa, of course, to walk to the gate and pass the message to the soldiers who were there. So Musa did not open the gate on his own will, or through my orders.
Yes. I asked this question because we've had a lot of stories. We want to get it right.
Yes.
You have given this example of Kenyan forces being disarmed by a band of rebels in UNAMSO. It first started with the Indian troops, that was in 1998.
Yeah.
But they were disarmed, not because they were unable to fight, but because they were not mandated to fight. They were given a Chapter 6.5 resolution, a Chinese Chapter 7.
Yes, you are right. I was in Sierra Leone at the time, Council. And because maybe they felt that the rebels were more armed than them.
Mr. Tamba, I participated in writing the resolution. So we knew the reason why those people were liable. In fact, they were rendered impotent by our disagreement at this council of not adding a half to the resolution from Chapter 6 to Chapter 7. But that's for another day.
Yeah.
Your position is that you believe that you were unable to fight.
Right, Council.
Let's take it first a step backwards and we would come back to this. A defense was mounted at the bridge.
Correct.
Do you believe that that defense was capable of repelling this force?
Council, that defense that was mounted at the bridge could not counter this force because they were poorly armed compared to the advancing troops.
I am not a military expert and I can never pretend to be one. But we received evidence suggesting that Edwards was threatening to blow the bridge. Don't you think that if that threat would have been executed, you would have had the best defense?
That may not be the best defense, Council. If he had blown the bridge, what capabilities he had at the time because of the kind of weapons they had. If you know Denton Bridge as it is, if the bridge is blown and they have taken over the bridge, they can still use the boats, the fishing boats. If you know Denton Bridge as it is, we have a lot of boats at the other side of the bridge. So even if the bridge was blown, they could use those bridges to ferry across.
Well, that is an opinion. With regards to your case at the State House.
State House.
We were told that the weapons that you had and the strategic nature of some of the points there you would have been in a position to defend State House if you wanted to.
I know
that you have partly answered this question. So we should not spend too much time on it. But I ask you to react to that suggestion. What do you say?
Council, in order to have a very strong defensive position, the kind of weapons you have matters. And that was why I said the advancing force was more heavily armed than us. And I have said that they captured our armory, whereby if we needed more ammunition, now we will not be able to have that. So in that case, if that happens, it's like, exposing my men to all kinds of treatment. But if you're fighting with somebody and you run out of ammunition, that will be at the person's mercy. Because what else can you do? You just surrender yourself, and maybe that time my men would have killed some of their friendly forces. And so that is why it is believed that in certain situations, if I were to report to my commander elsewhere, usually that commander will refer back the decision to you, the commander on the ground. Because sometimes it's the situation on the ground that dictates your next action.
To cut it short, Mr. Tamba, your suggestion is that your assessment of the situation required that in order to save your men, you surrender and open the State House gates. That's your position.
Correct.
In a sense, you are saying that your decision to open the gates is not based on some conversation you had in Jola with Yaya Jammeh.
You are right, Council, because like I said, there was no means of communication between me and Yaya Jammeh. If my intention was to communicate with Yaya Jammeh, I could have sent my runner to that side of where Yaya Jammeh was. Bring message information from Yaya Jammeh to me. But instead, my first contact was with Edward. And when I gave instruction for gate to be opened, Edward's side was the first area I gave instruction for that gate to be opened. Until Edward came in with his troops. It was later I gave instruction from the Marina Gate M.
I think we can end it here at this point, and then we come back after lunch.
Thank you. So, you summarized well. Edward and his group confronted you at the gate. You were outmanned, you were outgunned, and you surrendered.
Munta chairman ko Edward nala molu briefutata retired General Tamba nala molu ma State House amunta mem fintita je wolem Edward nala molu wolle siata molu ti General Tamba ni menu be konoto Edward nala molu la jorangulu forta General Tamba nala molu ti andu Edward nala molu itelle yiriko fanan siata General Tamba nala molu.
I'll ask this quick question. I don't want to wait until the end of your testimony to do it. But when the Vice President and the American ambassador went in Tamba to see President Jawara, before that, you and Lamin Kababajo, you said, had plans to defend the State House. What plan did you have exactly? Just very briefly. What was it that you wanted to do, especially to secure the president?
American ambassador ning Vice President Sehu Sabali be nyokanji nun fuja nibe futala President Jawarama wotembo iteni la mori foko alifero soto le pour alpareta State House tankandila nyaming wotembo iteni la mori Allah tankandir silo alafta lu munekela nun pour dinkira la tankala janning President Jawara ning American ambassador ni Sehu Sabali be bolaji.
Thank you very much, Chairman. The plan we did was we deployed the troops we had on the ground all over the perimeter fence of the State House.
The State House State House
manning all the strategic positions. We did that simply so that at a particular stage maybe we could get reinforcement. And our hope of reinforcement was to be from Bakau. Because we and Bakau, Fajara Barracks, we belong to the same parent unit. And also, at the time, we didn't know the strength of the soldiers who were coming from Yulu in terms of their armament. Ntelumalo ni sojaro lumembe bolano yundum kana wolu nimmun joram faso lumen bina utumo mawolo manso biala. So we had to deploy our men so that we'll be ready for them. Utumo wale asabu ngana molu janjande purunsi pare ikamma. But in any situation, bari kuo kundi lanya kammala situation can change. Depending on the environment. That was why when we noticed that they have more firepower than us, and they outnumber us, and we tell us yet until so after the assessment, you have to come up with another decision. This is the way we are trained in the military. You have to take decisions based on the conditions, on the existing conditions at the time. And because of the existing conditions were not favorable to us, I wasn't prepared to sacrifice my men. So that led to that decision. Because if I had engaged them in a fight, we could not stop them from entering the State House.
Thank you, General. We will take a lunch break now and resume at 3 o'clock. Meeting is adjourned.
Thanks.
Wow. Love like fire. Xam ngeen rek affaire bi xam ngeen fan la? Skincare la. 2020 lañ wax de. Wow. Fii nag mooy Kerr fan Kerr zero tache. Perfect skin. Skincare saa su ne rek niñ ko dee defee rek. Loo lañ soxlaati rek. Maanaam bu ngeen am problème ci seen skin ngeen xam ngeen fan la. Fii ngeen di ñëw. Suma xarit yeeg am di jàmm yi nga xam ne taas daf lañ sonaloon xam nga doon xeesal ba laka xum éneew ma lañ ko nag waaye just in case comme ni ko gars yi di waxee rek en cas just in case loolu xew xam ngeen fi ngeen di ñëw skincare plus si yu baax rek la ñoo dox nag ay baax rek fu ne la ñoo dem ci réew mi di lañ indi rek nag products yu baax du Paris du Italie du USA du fi mu nekk nii sax boole nañ ci nag Sweden fu nekk lañ leen a indilee products bu dee tamit nag da nga ñuul rek ñu lay jamaa natural beauty that melanin dripping we do have stuff for you as well emuñ si skincare products rek ñu ngi ci cuub yi tamit fu ne la ñoo jaar in fact sax last commercial bi ñu defoon waxuñ leen woon ne dañoo dox ci ay kawar 9A grade rek nag waaw we do have bundles as well hair si lu ne la ñoo dox ñun ñu ngi ci rafetal jigéen rek luy taaral jigéen rek waaw boo leen di tukki tamit bëggoon rek classic suitcase ñu dañoo dox ci ay Samsonite duñ dee indi any brand of suitcases though other than Samsonite comme li ma dee wax rek boo eggee airport dëri Samsonite dafa am nuñ laa xoolee waaw ngeen lan nag waaw skin ci moom la ñu gën a xamee nag skincare products ci moom la ñu gën a xamee ñu ngi dox tamit bentey tamit si ay dàlla waaye man nag skincare mooy suma specialty xam nga rek jigéen bu sa xar kanam réglé loo def mu jag am nañ Patricia Reiner, Kiwi Eye, the whole range, Lighten Up Gold, Tomatine. I mean, the list can just go on and on and on and on. Lépp loo xam ne rek luy taaral jigéen la ci yooyu rek la ñoo dox. Skincare plus nag emuñ si Gambia rek ñu ngi United States ñu ngi Gambia fii ba pare bu dee yaa ngi anywhere in Europe mun nañ la ko mail within 3 days rek ñetti fan rek nga jot say diw emuñ si loolu rek dañ laa consult tamit balaa ñu laa jaay diw dinañ def a free consultation pour wax la rek exactly li nga xam ne moo méngoo ak sa kanam dinañ leen wax tamit ne rek am nañ perfumes fragrances men's shirts accessories we do dresses as well we do blouses we do shoes name it we do them Skincare Plus 2020 is our year of perfection zero task fi mu nekk nii réew mi fii kenn waratu fi taas kenn waratu fi am problème kanam kenn waratu fi am problème yu picca boo ko amee dafa fekk ne rek ñëwuloo ci place bi fii. Love like fire. Bring my love like fire.
Miss B Designer Outlet is the #1 quality and affordable stop shop for all your needs. Get your evening dresses, suit and ties, office wears for both ladies and gentlemen, beach wears, sport wears, pure leather shoes for men, quality belts, bags, heels for all beautiful ladies, original perfumes, accessories, and a lot more. Find us at Kololini Road opposite Gaddafi Mosque at the Aqua Preacher Station, or call us on 295-3411 or 764-2486. Miss B Designer Outlet. Shop right, look good.
When we touch down, get a broke down.
With Gamtel G-Fiber, now you can enjoy super fast internet in gigabytes. G-Fiber is affordable, stable, secured, and accessible to homes, businesses, and enterprises. With Gamtel G-Fiber, the future is speed. Gamtel, creating a brighter future in communication.
That's how she became mine and see that.